Hi, welcome back to NextGen Picks. Remember your parents' old TV? That bulky Sony Trinitron sitting in the living room from 1995 to 2010, working perfectly fine when they finally replaced it. Not because it broke, but because they wanted something flat that didn't weigh 200 lboe. 15 years of flawless service, then passed along to a college kid who got another 5 years out of it. Now walk into Best Buy and ask the sales associate about TV lifespan. If they're honest, they'll tell you 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 if you're lucky, and treat it like a newborn. That's not your imagination. Modern TVs genuinely don't last as long as the CRT sets they replaced. And the reasons why reveal everything that's changed about how electronics are designed, manufactured, and sold in 2026. Your $800 smart TV is engineered differently than that $500 CRT from 2000. And not all those differences work in your favor. The numbers don't lie. Let's start with the data because it's pretty stark. Research studies tracking TV lifespan across different technologies found that CRT televisions had an average lifespan of 15 years. That wasn't an outlier. That was the median. Half of all CRT TVs lasted even longer than 15 years. Modern LCD and LED TVs, the same research found an average lifespan of just 6 years. That's based on actual discard data from Sweden tracking what happened to TVs sold between 1996 and 2014. And here's the kicker. Over 40% of LCD and LED TVs were discarded within the first 5 years. By comparison, only 20% of CRT TVs got tossed in their first 5 years. The numbers from repair technicians tell a similar story. Sony, which has the best reliability rating among modern TV brands, still sees an estimated 3% to 5% failure rate within the first 5 years, according to Consumer Reports data. Budget brands like Hisense and Vizio, Consumer Reports estimates 20% of their TVs will experience problems in the first 5 years, 1 in 5. A technician who runs a TV repair shop in Texas put it bluntly on a forum. I still see Sony CRTs from the 90s working fine. Modern TVs, I'm replacing power boards and backlights on units barely out of warranty. The backlight lottery. The single biggest killer of modern TVs is something CRTs never had to worry about. The LED backlight array. This is what actually illuminates your screen, and it's designed in a way that pretty much guarantees eventual failure. Here's how it works. Behind your LCD panel sits an array of LED strips, sometimes dozens of them, all connected in series. Just like Christmas lights, when one LED fails, the entire strip goes dark. And LEDs fail for very predictable reasons: heat stress and manufacturing defects. The problem compounds because manufacturers push these LEDs hard. Most TVs ship from the factory with brightness cranked to maximum or near maximum settings. This makes them pop on the showroom floor at Best Buy, but it dramatically shortens LED lifespan. One repair blog found that 80% of the TVs they fix have failed LED backlights. And most of those failures trace back to people leaving the TV on default vivid or dynamic picture modes that run the LEDs at full power. The rated lifespan for LED backlights is typically 40,000 to 60,000 hours. That sounds like a lot. At 8 hours a day, that's 13 to 20 years of use. But that's at moderate brightness. Crank it to maximum like most TVs ship, and you're cutting that lifespan in half or worse. One Costco shopper reported on Reddit, "My Samsung 55-in went completely dark at the 4-year mark. Still sound. Could barely make out an image with a flashlight." Called Samsung. They quoted $400 to replace the backlight strips. The TV costs $600 new. Just bought a new one. That's the pattern. The backlight fails. The repair costs 60% to 70% of the replacement price. And people throw away TVs with perfectly good panels, perfectly good processing boards, perfectly good everything except for $40 worth of LED strips that manufacturers won't sell you. And technicians charge $300 in labor to replace. The power board problem. If the backlight doesn't kill your TV, the power supply board probably will. This is the second most common failure point, and it's entirely about cost cutting and component selection. Power supply boards in modern TVs use electrolytic capacitors. These are the cylindrical components that regulate voltage, and they have a known failure mode. They dry out over time, especially when exposed to heat. A high-quality capacitor might last 10 to 15 years. The cheap ones used in budget TVs, 3 to 5 years. Repair technicians can spot these failures immediately. The capacitors bulge, leak, or show visible burn marks. Replacing them costs maybe $20 in parts if you can do it yourself, but most people can't. And repair shops charge $150 to $200 because they have to diagnose the problem, order the part, and make sure the replacement matches exact specifications. One TV repair technician wrote on a forum, "I replace more capacitors on power boards than anything else. The manufacturers know exactly how long these cheap caps will last. They're not designing for 10-year service life. They're designing for exactly what the warranty covers, plus maybe 6 months." A Samsung owner posted in a community forum, "My 65-inch died at exactly 25 months, just outside the 2-year warranty. Took it to a repair shop. Guy pulled the power board, showed me 3 bulging capacitors, said he sees this model all the time. Repair was $180. Samsung wanted $400 for a new board that wouldn't ship for 6 weeks. The electronics have names like BN44074A or EAY6318901. And when you Google them, you find hundreds of people with the exact same failure on the exact same board. That's not coincidence. That's a component with a known lifespan hitting its expiration date right on schedule. The software obsolescence trap. Even if your TV's hardware survives, the software might kill it anyway. Modern smart TVs rely on operating systems that need regular updates to keep streaming apps functional, and manufacturers have discovered that discontinuing software support is a great way to encourage upgrades. Samsung's Tizen platform typically gets updates for 4 to 5 years. After that, apps start breaking. Netflix might stop supporting your TV's OS version. YouTube changes its API and your TV can't handle it. Disney Plus requires features your TV's software doesn't have. One Reddit user described the slow death. "My 2017 Samsung worked fine until about month 48. Then Netflix started crashing. Then the Disney app just disappeared from the menu. Then YouTube took 30 seconds to load each video. Samsung's response, 'Your model is no longer supported.' Have you considered our 2025 lineup? LG does slightly better, typically supporting web for 5 to 6 years before pulling the plug. Sony uses Google TV, which helps, but even Google eventually drops support for older processors. Here's the brutal reality. You might have a TV with a perfectly functional panel, working backlight, solid power supply, but you can't watch Netflix on it because Samsung or LG decided your 4-year-old TV doesn't deserve software updates anymore." A TV repair shop owner in the UK put it simply, "I've had customers bring in TVs where nothing is physically wrong. The apps just don't work anymore. I can't fix that. The manufacturer won't update it. The TV is basically e-waste with a working screen." The heat management failure. Modern TVs generate more heat in a smaller space than CRTs ever did, and manufacturers aren't giving them adequate cooling. This accelerates every other failure mode we've discussed. CRT TVs were huge and heavy, yes, but all that mass acted as a heat sink. The electronics had room to breathe. Modern TVs cram powerful processors, Wi-Fi chips, Bluetooth modules, and all the display electronics into a chassis that's maybe an inch thick. The thinner the TV, the harder it is to cool. Those ultra-slim OLED panels everyone loves, they're terrible at dissipating heat. The processor and power boards get hot, the heat has nowhere to go, and components fail faster. Dust makes it worse. The vents on the back of your TV pull in air to cool the electronics, and they also pull in dust. That dust accumulates on circuit boards and blocks airflow. After 2 or 3 years, the cooling system is compromised. Temperatures inside the TV rise by 10 or 15 degrees, and failure rates accelerate. A repair guide on iFixit notes, "Clean your TV vents every 6 months. Most people never do this. The dust buildup we see inside 3-year-old TVs is shocking." It's like people expect these things to be maintenance-free. That's exactly what people expect because CRTs basically were maintenance-free. You could ignore them for 15 years and they kept working. Modern TVs need preventive maintenance that nobody tells you about, and most people wouldn't do anyway. The CRT advantage. We forgot. Here's what made CRTs so reliable. They were fundamentally simple devices. A cathode ray tube fires electrons at phosphor-coated glass. Some capacitors, some resistors, a power supply. That's basically it. Fewer components mean fewer failure points. The picture tube itself was nearly indestructible. Phosphors could fade over time, reducing brightness, but it took decades. The only common failure mode was the flyback transformer, and even that usually lasted 10+ years. One hobbyist who collects vintage electronics posted it. I have a Panasonic CRT from 1976 that still works. The only repair it ever needed was replacing the power cord because the original one cracked from age. The tube is fine, the circuits are fine. It's 50 years old. Modern TVs have hundreds of individual LEDs that can fail, complex mainboards with processors that can corrupt, Wi-Fi chips that can die, touch-sensitive buttons that stop responding. Every added feature is another potential failure point. The Swedish research study found this interesting pattern. As TVs added features and became smarter, their lifespans shortened even as build quality nominally improved. It wasn't that manufacturers were making worse products, it's that they were making more complex products. And complexity is the enemy of reliability, the disposable electronics business model. Let's talk about what nobody wants to say out loud. Manufacturers don't want your TV to last 15 years anymore. That's not conspiracy theory. That's business reality. TV prices have dropped dramatically. A 55 in 4K TV costs less in 2026 than a 27 in CRT cost in 1995. Manufacturers can't make money selling one TV every 15 years. They need you replacing your TV every 4 to 6 years to sustain their revenue. The evidence shows up in repair part availability. When your 5-year-old TV breaks, good luck finding replacement boards. Manufacturers discontinue parts within 3 to 4 years of a model's release. Independent repair shops confirm this pattern. Companies tell us parts are no longer available, but really they just stopped making them because it's not profitable to support old models. One forum discussion revealed the extent of this. Technician told me Samsung phased out parts for my 2020 TV in 2024. It's not even obsolete. They just won't support it. He said LG does the same thing. Sony is slightly better, but nobody keeps parts inventory past 4 years. Extended warranties exist because manufacturers know exactly when their products will fail. That 5-year extended warranty you didn't buy, it covers years 3 through 7 because that's when the failures cluster. Years 1 and 2 are usually fine because that's what the standard warranty covers. A repair technician shared, I can tell you which models will have power board failures in year 3, which ones will have backlight failures in year 4. It's predictable because the components are specs to last exactly that long. The budget brand Gamble Consumer Reports data shows massive reliability differences between premium and budget brands. Sony TVs have roughly a 3% to 5% failure rate in the first 5 years. Hisense and Vizio 20% failure rate in the same period. That's not a small difference. Buy 4 budget TVs and odds are one of them will fail before year 5. Buy 4 Sony TVs and you might see 1 failure in the entire batch. But here's where it gets interesting. Budget brands can still be the smarter purchase depending on how you value your money. A $400 Hisense that lasts 4 years costs $100 per year. A $200 Sony that lasts 8 years costs $150 per year. If the Hisense gives you 75% of the picture quality, you're still coming out ahead on value. The problem is when budget brands fail earlier than expected. One Walmart shopper wrote, bought a 50-inch Hisense for $219 on Black Friday 2023. Dead by December 2024. 13 months power board failure. Hisense customer service was useless. No parts available. No repair options. Just sorry. It's out of warranty. That same person could have bought a $450 TCL that would probably last 6 years, or a $700 Samsung that might make it to 8 years, or a $1,000 Sony that could hit 10 years. The annual cost varies less than you'd think once you factor in replacement timing. The OLED question. OLED TVs deserve special mention because they've introduced a new failure mode that LCD never had. Burn-in static images left on screen for extended periods can permanently damage the organic pixels, leaving ghost images that never go away. LG claims their 2026 OLED panels can handle 100,000 hours, roughly 30 years of regular viewing. Ardings tested over 100 TVs for 10,000 plus hours and found that OLED reliability is actually pretty good for normal use. But the burn-in risk is real if you watch a lot of news channels with static tickers or if you game with static UI elements. One owner reported, "My LG C3 OED developed burn-in after 18 months. I watch CNBC every morning while getting ready for work. Same channel, same ticker. LG wouldn't warranty it because burn-in isn't covered. $800 TV ruined. The pixel refreshing features help, but they're not perfect. And the very nature of OLED technology means those pixels degrade with use. It's not like an LED backlight that either works or doesn't. OLED pixels gradually dim over time, imperceptibly at first, but after 5 or 6 years, you notice the screen isn't as bright as it used to be. What changed and why? When you look at the total picture, 3 big shifts explain why modern TVs don't last like CRTs. First, complexity increased dramatically. A CRT had maybe 50 to 100 electronic components. A modern smart TV has thousands. More components mean more failure points. The math is simple. Second, thermal management got worse. Making TVs thinner meant sacrificing cooling capacity. Heat accelerates every type of electronic failure. Manufacturers chose aesthetics over longevity. Third, business models shifted. When CRTs cost $500 and TVs were replaced every 10 to 15 years, manufacturers could afford to build for durability. Now TVs cost $300 to $600. Margins are thin, and companies need shorter replacement cycles to stay profitable. They're not building TVs to fail exactly, but they're definitely not engineering them to last 15 years either. A former Samsung engineer speaking anonymously on Reddit confirmed this. "We designed to hit a price point and a warranty period. If that means using cheaper capacitors that last 4 years instead of 10 years but save $3 per unit, that's what we do. Nobody's malicious about it. It's just economics. The bottom line, your parents' TV lasted 15 years because it was simpler, cooler running, and built when business models supported longevity. Your TV will last 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 if you're careful and lucky, because it's complex, runs hot, and exists in a market that needs you buying a new one every half-decade. That doesn't mean modern TVs are bad. The picture quality on a $500 TV in 2026 would have cost $10,000 and $2,000. The features are incredible, the prices are amazingly low, but you're not buying a 15-year appliance anymore. You're buying a 5 to 7-year consumer electronic, and you should budget accordingly. If you want to maximize lifespan, here's what actually works. Buy Sony or LG if you can afford the premium. Turn down the brightness and avoid vivid picture modes. Clean the vents twice a year. Use a surge protector. And maybe most important, buy a good streaming stick. And don't rely on the TV's built-in smart features because that external Roku or Apple TV can be replaced for $50 when it eventually breaks or becomes obsolete. The days of one TV lasting from your kid's kindergarten graduation to their college graduation are over. Plan for replacement every 6 to 8 years. Budget accordingly, and don't feel bad when your TV dies right around the time the manufacturer planned for it to happen, because that's exactly what they designed it to do. If your modern TV died years before you expected, drop a comment with the brand, model, and what failed. Let's see if the patterns match what the repair data suggests. And if you want honest breakdowns of which TVs actually last before you drop $800, subscribe to the NextGen Picks because someone needs to tell you what Best Buy won't.